Hello, it is Sunday the 17th of November. I'm just looking at the markets ahead of the US Open for this week. I'm a little bit concerned because it feels like everybody's got a little bit too bullish in terms of sentiment. And, you know, in a bear market, we get really most bear markets, we get really fierce bear market rallies which make everybody think that the bear market's over and everything is going up again. And particularly in crypto, in bull markets or bull runs, we can get some really nasty shakeout pullbacks that can make people think it's all over. And I don't think it is. You know, the macro picture, you know, new Trump pro-crypto administration, I think longer term is really bullish. It's just we're not quite there yet. He doesn't go into office until the end of January. And you know, in between now and then, we're going to hear a lot more about his appointments and the fights over his appointments and a whole bunch of other fights in the world. So particularly now that so much of the volume in Bitcoin and ETH comes from the ETFs, I think what happens in the bigger market matters. And we've seen pretty nasty bearish reversals last week in terms of weekly moves in stock indexes. So we'll talk about them as well. In terms of macro news, what can upset the market or run us over next week, there's really nothing on the calendar except for Wednesday. And Wednesday, of course, is Nvidia earnings. You know, Nvidia, the stock price is up over 200% from the start of the year, which was at 49, and here we are at 149. It rode, you know, even in August when we had that really nasty shakeout, which bottomed on the 5th of August, you know, Nvidia fell 50% and has recovered miraculously from that low. What makes me a little bit nervous about the earnings in Nvidia is really for the last 4 quarters, they have beaten. When you beat 4 quarters in a row, the market starts expecting really big beats. So if we do anything less than that or anything more of a warning, perhaps, you know, we could see profit taking in the reversal. We may not get the same bullish reversal that we're expecting. I think that options are suggesting an 8% move in Nvidia, so we'll see how that goes. That comes in after the close on Wednesday evening. So if we take a look at the Nasdaq, which is the most correlated stock index with crypto markets, this candlestick pattern on the weekly chart here is called a dark cloud cover. That's where you make a marginal new high and then you close down more than 50% on the previous week's open close, and that's where we are going to end up. If we look down to, if we say, well, we start the week with a bounce, because that's pretty normal for the start of the week after a really big down move, and the mood music often changes from Friday to Monday. But if we continue lower from here, this is a really big pivot level through the middle here at the 20,000 level in the Nasdaq. We had these weekly dojis when we got here in July, and then when we got underneath it, that 20,000 level became resistance, and then when we got it above it, it became support. It wouldn't be weird then if we start the week with maybe a bit of a bounce, but if we continue lower in the Nasdaq, I think this 20,000 level may be where we come back to, and that's where our weekly 20 moving average sits. So if we see, you know, kind of continued weakness in this stock index, we may see the same thing continue in Bitcoin, because, you know, so much of the volume and sentiment comes from the ETFs. Now, I said last week at the start of the week that this $90,000 level was a big price in Bitcoin based on projection, because I believe that there's a mathematical relationship between wave 1 and this big wave 5 that we are in, and we reached this 2.618 level. I don't think that this is the all-time high forever for Bitcoin necessarily, but it is just one of those levels where we may see a bit of a pullback or some sideways trading and some back and fill, and that's kind of where we are, and that's really what we have done since last Monday. Monday's where we got here, and then we've gone sideways at this level. At the moment, you know, on no time frame has this kind of turned into a bigger reversal. This is really nasty, just chopped sideways trading, and I just feel like there is potential for this to continue, and then we'll see which way we go. Are we likely to see a bigger pullback from here? For me, the best entries, when I take this off, the best entries when you're trending in Bitcoin have been these pullbacks to these daily 20 moving average, and we're quite a long way, which means we got a little bit overstretched on the upside here. We're quite a long way from this daily 20 moving average. And so, we could see quite a much bigger pullback here and still be in a really nice, strong uptrend in Bitcoin. So I wouldn't rule that out. There are some charts, though, which I look at and I think, we could just keep going higher from here. I think probably Doge is one of them. But for most other charts, for example, Solana has reached one of those kind of fib projection levels. So if we do the same thing here, this is a weekly chart of Solana, and if we go from this 2022 low, and we measure this wave 1, and we project it from the low of this wave 5, so this is wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we've got more upside, but for me in Solana, this 241 level was kind of one of those fib projection levels, and the other fib projection levels worked pretty well, particularly this 2.618, which is where Bitcoin is. It was resistance, and support. And so we kind of have reached one of those levels in Solana as well, where I think we could see some sideways trading or some back and fill. And when I look at the weekly, we're a long way from that weekly 20 moving average, and we're a long way from the daily 20 moving average. We could come back and test, back towards the bottom of these lows anyway. So we are just a little bit stretched, and the sentiment, I feel like, is just a little bit too bullish. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all over for meme coins or anything else. They really are in their own little market at the moment. The king of the meme coins, of course, is being driven by something else completely, which is, of course, is Doge. One of the things that's driving Doge is Elon Musk, and he's literally 15 minutes before I recorded this, he tweeted Doge, and every time he does this, I kind of think, I have to quickly go look at the Doge chart to see if it's going to take off. So let's take a look, see where we are in Doge, because I was long Doge into the election, and then I took profit at this big 50% level. And this is from the highs in Doge in 2021 to the lows in June 2022. Very often these big 50% retrace levels are a big deal, particularly if you've got a reaction like we got here at this 236 fib. So I expected to see some sideways back and fill. I thought, if it keeps going and we close above it, I'll just buy it back again. Instead, we have gone sideways for a week in Doge as well. So the key question is, when I zoom out and I look at this, I feel like this is a wave 4 and we have got another leg higher. And so, maybe we don't spend too long going sideways here. And if I look back and think, well, if this was a wave 2 that we made at the beginning of the month, then potentially, if these are equal in time, if not price, this should maybe be over soon in Doge. The problem is, because it's a wave 4, they're not always simple wave 4s. If you're going to see a triangle or a declining wedge or just that sideways 5-wave wedge pattern, a wave 4 is very often where you see it, which would mean here in Doge, we've had 1, 2, 3, we could very easily see 4, 5 before we get going again. So this is, again, not bearish at all. This is just sideways chop, and I kind of got out of the way when it happened. The main reason I got out of the way is with 50% fib levels or 50% retrace or mean reverting markets, they tend to keep mean reverting, which means for me, by my kind of trading rules, is, so we reversed it at this 50%. Let's put the numbers on the other side. If you get underneath that 38.2 on a back test, the problem is that you'll tend to keep mean reverting, which means for me, underneath this 0.32 level, we are likely to see a 50% retrace of the entire rally in Doge the other way, which would mean, back towards 0.22 and potentially back towards the highs from March. So That's what I'm just a little bit nervous about, you know. And we could do a nasty spike down there and go all the way up again, and no damage to this uptrend at all. So for now, I'm pretty impressed with the price action. It's really nice sideways consolidation, bullish, you know, bullish corrective in a bullish trend. You know, it's just sideways consolidation and correction at the moment. And so I'm watching this one closely, because if this does actually just do this, you know, and take off from here and break out. So if we draw it like this, you know, our resistance now is 0.4048. But if we break out from here, that would suggest to me that we have finished this correction, and then 0.488 next, and above that, you know, the 786 fib and so on. You know, we're back in uptrend wave 5s, which we would be doing if we broke out from this correction. Can extend really quite a long way. So, you know, there's no way I'm calling this a top or a bigger reversal or something, but I would be more concerned that it could get a little bit spiky if we closed underneath 0.32. So that's what I'm looking at this week. And I just want to say, just be careful, don't rush in. I think the start of the week, I don't expect to collapse, but I'd like to see how it shakes out, and mark my entries from there. And if there's anything exciting you'd like me to look at in crypto, let me know and I'll cover it tomorrow.